Hello, welcome to Retro Toy Princess. I'm Allison Choi. Today, I'm going to be coloring a pinup of Evil-Lyn from a vintage 1984 Masters of the Universe coloring book. This image is a digital scan printed on Spring Hill White 8.5 by 11 cardstock paper. I colored this using the Prismacolor Scholar 60 pencil set, an alcohol blender marker, and Caran d'Ache Neocolor 2. I also used some generic metallic markers I've had for like 10 years, basically to color in the borders. They're nothing fancy, just something I picked up at a craft store from a table of clearance items. I started by using a stencil to add some planets to the background. This picture is a little scarce on details and doesn't feel all that special to me, so I figured I'd make it a little fancier. Using my light box and a piece of regular printer paper, I planned out a rough scheme of color and placement for the added details, and pre-planned the color scheme. For a lot of kids in the early 1980s, their first real exposure to Masters of the Universe was a cartoon by Filmation. As I mentioned in my first Evil-Lyn coloring video, we didn't get episodes of the series on any of our local channels until mid to late 1984, even though the cartoon had started in late 1983. Evil-Lyn as presented in the cartoon was cool, but I always felt slightly let down. The necessity of how quickly Filmation needed to turn the animation around on a budget meant that the more detailed look of Evil-Lyn's action figure had to be toned down. She lost the detailed armor and the skull on her helmet. Her skin went from being a bright, vibrant yellow to a muted, faded yellow. The navy blue of her outfit became dark purple, almost black, and the light aqua blue armor became a lavender hue. While the colors were cool, I disliked the lack of detail. I also disliked that Evil-Lyn never got much of a backstory in the cartoon. We never got any of her origins or who she was outside of being one of Skeletor's minions. This seems like a missed opportunity to me, because occasionally it was really clear that she was out for herself and had her own agenda, whatever that was. She was given slightly more history in some of the other media of the time. In one of the storybooks, she was revealed to be Evelyn Powers, one of Queen Marlena's fellow astronauts. While Marlena ended up on Eternia, Evelyn Powers and two other crew members ended up on Eternia's sister planet, Infinita, where they were transformed into evil warriors and joined Skeletor. This backstory was referenced in the original Filmation story Bible, but was never explored or even mentioned in a single episode of the Filmation series. The rumor is the writers on the show hated this backstory, so they chose to ignore it. I'm not particularly fond of it myself, so I'm kind of glad they left it on the cutting room floor. Honestly, the lack of backstory as a kid allowed me to further create my own backstory for Evil-Lyn. She was the daughter of a powerful sorceress, the Queen of Black Magic, who had been defeated by the goddess, the original snake-armored version of the sorceress, and she was banished to another dimension. In her mother's absence, Evil-Lyn had been named the Queen of her mother's coven, which was designated by her helmet, which I called the Witch's Crown. I created 13 different witches using various figures from other lines to substitute for them, if any of them were ever needed for my playtime story. My Sera figure from the Power Lords toy line was one of the figures that I used as a witch. Her transforming play feature made her two different witches. I also used Mercian from LJN's Advanced Dungeons & Dragons toy line. Even though she was a little bit shorter than the Mode 2 figures, she did have the right look to be involved in Mode 2 playtime, and I just said that she was a little person. So that gave me 3 witches. Later, whenever Princess of Power was coming up, I was able to dress some of those figures up so they looked different, so they could also fill in as witches. I also made a Shadow Weaver, but she was basically just an extra She-Ra wearing a red t-shirt that I cut up and secured with red rubber bands. In the adventures I created, Evil-Lyn was only aligned with Skeletor because he might be able to get her into Castle Grayskull, where she could find the doorway to the dimension where the goddess sent her mother. And with that, I'm going to stop talking for a little bit and let you watch the coloring and listen to some music. I'm really happy with how this came out. Adding the planets really made this page feel bigger and grander than it was in the coloring book. A lot of these old books have nice art. They could just use a little imagination to make the pages really pop. Those metallic markers don't look particularly special on camera or even in the scan of the completed page, but in person they look really nice. It's one of the disadvantages of coloring in videos to stick on the internet. Things that look really rad in person don't always translate to the screen. But you can trust me, it looks pretty good. And with that, we've come to the end of another coloring video. Next time we're taking a break from Evil-Lyn, and I'll be doing Princess Leia in Boushh Disguise from Return of the Jedi. Until then, thank you for watching. If you like this video, why not smack that like? And if you'd like to see more, you should subscribe and turn on notifications. Thank you again for watching. This has been Allison Choi, Retro Toy Princess. I'll see you in the next one.